Hello there. Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars in a Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today we are back at the mat. It's been a while. It's been a while since Jacob's been on. I did the episode with Mo on the eye where we missed Jacob for that, but we're back with episode 163 of Star Wars in a Galaxy, season 20, episode 7. Boy, this is going to be a long season of Star Wars in a Galaxy, and I'm not just saying that because of the various feelings I've purported to say about Andor. I'm really into this show with things like the Bad Batch. Honestly, has been one of those things where I've gained a much greater appreciation for it by watching it for In a Galaxy.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, no, but I never thought it was bad. I never thought it was bad.
No, I know that. I know that. I just want you to take as much pleasure in it as I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing. I'm not taking a lot of pleasure in it right now just because it's so goddamn heavy. I mean,
this episode got my blood pressure going.
Yeah, and
when we talk about that ending, oh boy.
Yeah, and I've already started watching a little bit because we got some scheduling conflicts, and I thought we were going to be recording 8 much sooner than we end up going to. So I already started watching 5. Holy shit, that shit's rough. That's horrifying to watch. But we'll get into that next episode. But meantime, we watched Episode 7 of Andor, Announcement. Mo mentioned last time this was her favorite episode of the show. And while it might not be my favorite, it's up there with it's up there with my favorites of the show. This is a unique episode of the show to me because it strays away from the arc format that all other 11 episodes of this season adhere to. And judging by what we've seen from the structure of season 2, it might be a unique one in the series in general that strays away from the arc format, because I'm pretty sure from what I've seen in season 2 that all the episodes in season 2 are pretty constrained to that arc format. Not that that's a bad thing by any stretch of the imagination. It's how we get those build up tension and relief. But it's just interesting in this show that cares so much about building up the story, building up these characters, that we have this transitionary episode. But before we get into it, let me just quickly summarize what we got. This episode is really about the fallout of what happens right after the galaxy finds out that an Imperial garrison on Aldhani was robbed of over 80 million credits by a small band of revolutionaries who were able to slip in without many in the Empire noticing one bit. We start at I'm going to address things by plot line, except for this one thing at the start, because this is very important, which is the reaction from the Imperial Security Bureau and the Imperial Senate, which immediately pledges to clamp down hard on any activity it deems criminal throughout the galaxy. All offenses, even minor, will be treated from this point on by the Empire as Class 1 offenses. Throwing a rock at a stormtrooper, that's a Class 1 offense. Stealing 100 credits, that's a Class 1 offense. Stealing 80 million credits, you bet that's a Class 1 offense. Everything is treated with the utmost severity now. In addition to a widespread criminal justice ordinance that is passed by the Imperial Senate on the strong recommendation, I'm putting that in strong air quotes because
big air quotes for that one, yeah.
Because he would have implemented it anyway had it not passed. Although, what were the chances of that anyway? Called the Public Order Resentencing Directive. There we go. I was having trouble with the D, which vastly extends all criminal sentences against the Empire to be vastly longer than they would have been, than the harsh penalties even would have been before then, and just increases law enforcement all across the galaxy in retaliation against the rebel efforts, culminating in the heist on Aldhani. Immediately, you can see the impact of this taking place on the galaxy, even though Ferrix was under complete Imperial control following Cassian's escape after killing the Pre-Mor security guards, the enforcement is clamping down there as it is everywhere, even on Aldhani. We get that shot of Cinta watching as an Imperial Star Destroyer careens its way into the atmosphere on Aldhani. Yeah, there's a large security package also passed by the Senate about surveillance and search and seizure. It is getting pretty dark and dire for anybody who wants to try and resist Imperial might. A plot. Cassian Andor returns to Ferrix to check up on his friends, family, and community there. He heads. One of the first things he does, he checks on his mother and convinces her and B2EMO to leave Ferrix with him the next day. Convinces her and B2EMO to leave Ferrix the next day with him, citing the fact that it is just too dangerous for them on Ferrix as the Imperial presence on the planet cracks down. While she takes a little time to rest and consider her options, Cassian heads on over to Bix in the scrapyard, asks if she's heard anything from Luthen Rail, who he doesn't know is Luthen Rail, but it's Luthen Rail, her contact, and she has said no, and she also chastises him for returning and all of the danger that he's put the community in by killing the Pre-Mor security officers, and of course reveals that it was Tim who betrayed him to the Empire before being shot in the riot following his escape. What was I going to say? Yeah. The next day, he heads to his mother's house, convinced that he's going to leave with her and B2EMO, but she decides to decline, stating that she is best fortifying her own resistance to the Empire right where she is as a stalwart of the community. She cites that her mind is one of the only places they can't take over, and she's going to fight for everybody as long as she can on Ferrix, while insisting that Cassian cannot stay. You can't go. I can't leave, and you can't stay, is what she says. And Cassian rebuts this, saying that all he's going to do is worry about her. And she responds with the three most withering words of this show. Gets me every time. That's just love. We'll get to that. Withering is not the correct word. Heartbreaking. But anyway, before we find out the fate of Cassian, let's go to Coruscant, where Mon is at a party hosted by her and Perrin with many associates and guests in the Imperial upper class. And she uses this party as an opportunity to speak to an old friend from Chandrilla, who she has invited to the party, and an old flame of hers named Kay Kolma, who runs a bank on Chandrilla, and slowly starts to convince him to run a Chandrillan charitable outreach program that she's starting.
In heavy quotation marks as well.
No, that's what it is. She's just also using it to smuggle.
Oh, I see.
She's just also using it conveniently to smuggle funds to Luthen and other rebel efforts across the galaxy, because the Empire is also clamping down on financial transactions throughout the galaxy, and this is her easiest way of doing it without them noticing. As they well, my brain's foggy this morning. Yeah. As they continue to build up the rebellion's efforts. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Security Bureau, Dedra Meero takes the opportunity to manage to outwit her rival, Lieutenant Blevin, in using something called the Imperial Emergencies Act to maintain the proper authority she has to take over the Ferrix case from Blevin, in specific regards to a theory she has about Cassian Andor's connection to a figure named Axis, who she suspects is involved. Does she actually talk about Axis in this episode, or am I just mixing that up? Is that next episode?
It might be next episode. I'm not sure.
Next episode.
I'm pretty sure it's next episode. Yeah.
Okay, it's next episode. Whoops. Well, either way, she does outwit Blevin, and that's the important part. Meanwhile, Luthen and Clea engage in covert communications both with Mon Mothma and Vel Sartha, following the Aldani heist, including ordering Vel to find and kill Cassian Andor, who is a loose end that must be tied up. Karn gets ready for his big new job, not very big, at the Imperial Bureau of Standards, referred by his uncle Harlow. Meanwhile, Cassian flees Ferrix to a tropical planet called Niamos, which is a nice tropical planet. He has an affair with this local woman, seems nice, all that kind of stuff. He heads to the store, getting them some food or something like that. There is a protest of some kind going on Niamos, and Cassian just happens to be at the wrong place in the wrong place at the wrong time. A short trooper approaches him, accusing him of trying to run away from a protest that he was clearly not a part of. But anyway, that short trooper uses the new P.O.R.D to have Cassian arrested, specifically by a KX security droid. No, not that one. Where he is quickly sentenced on Niamos to 6 years in an Imperial penitentiary, and that is where the episode ends. We have a lot to cover in this episode. We really do. Holy crap. There's a lot that happens in this episode. It's very good, I think, it's very good at transitioning from 6 to 8, and it's really necessary, I feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I mean, this is a great episode, and I think on some level this episode, it's a lot of talk, but in many ways it sort of lives in the what might be, or the what could have been, in terms of, Cassian, trying to convince Maarva to go with him, things of that nature. And obviously it doesn't happen, and we end up sort of on this other path, sort of the worst possible ending, with Cassian getting hauled off to Imperial prison again for 6 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, where do you want to start with this? Because I think it's really, really, right. I mean, right from the very beginning, opening with more of Cyril's misery, but then, back in the eye.
I want to go plotline by plotline like we usually do, with one exception for this episode, because I feel like it informs the rest of the episode. I think we need to talk about the first ISB scene first before we talk about anything, because that sets the tone for this episode, because it's where we first learn of the P.O.R.D, which is the thing that defines this episode for me. But first, I forgot to talk about the face we see in the ISB, the man leading the meeting in the ISB. You loved him when he was a Star Wars of the Republic. You have mixed feelings about him now that he's turned to fascism. We gotta talk about the person in charge of this meeting, Wolf Yularen.
He's back. Yeah.
This is one of the other, this is such a and legitimately, when I was writing notes for this episode, I thought that Yularen only appeared in this episode. In fact, he appears in, and I know this again because I've taken notes from what am I gonna say for the following episode. He appears in Narkina 5 as well. He appears in these 2 episodes. I just looked it up on Wikipedia. He appears just in these 2 episodes, which I would call a cameo in this series equivalent, because he appears for 1 scene. I think he appears for 2 scenes. He's not important. He's not integral to the plot. You don't need to know who he is.
Yeah.
He could be.
Do they
any
refer to him by
Imperial.
name, or is it just a
No.
lore? Is it just a lore thing?
It's just a lore thing.
Definitely a
It's
cameo.
legitimately
I guess a cameo.
It could literally be anybody else. It could be anybody else up in the ISB. They could have brought back freaking Yasan Asard from Legends for this, and nobody would have freaking cared. Imagine if they brought Isard back. Although given the Legends callouts in this series, that wouldn't be the craziest thing the series has done, looking at you, Ricotta. But yeah, no, we knew, because of course the first time we see Yularen is in A New Hope at the conference table in the Death Star, chronologically, like release order speaking. Obviously, it wasn't Yularen then, but the good old magic of retcons made him Yularen.
Yeah.
But even from before this, we knew Imperial Yularen in a more defined way from season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, where he is assisting Thrawn in an investigation in the episode Through Imperial Eyes. But
yeah,
so we knew, but I think this is important, of course, because this is the first time we have a speaking Yularen that is not, for me, like more than Yoda, more than animated Yoda, more than maybe even more than the narrator in the Clone Wars. I'm trying to think of other important, like, I know Tom Kane did a lot of Qui-Gon stuff in animation. I know he's done done a lot of stuff. He's done a lot of Akbar stuff in animation.
Yeah,
in various
he gets
video
around.
games. He's a prolific. I didn't realize. Wow, he was actually Akbar's voice in TLJ. Wow, that's crazy. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of voice acting in Star Wars, and we're incredibly indebted to Tom Kane. And I'm saying in this tone because, of course, if you don't already know, he unfortunately had a stroke a few years ago that limited that basically prohibited him
voice act
from
anymore,
he
pretty
can't
much.
voice act anymore. His last
Yeah.
voice acting roles for Star Wars were as Akbar, Qui-Gon, and Yoda for Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, which now came out around 3 years ago. So
we're in your debt, Tom Kane.
We're in your debt, Tom Kane. But I think Yularen is his greatest role in Star Wars. I really do. I love Yularen.
Yeah, he gets some great moments in the Clone Wars for sure,
and in Rebels as well.
Lest we forget, absolutely. In Rebels.
No hate to Malcolm Sinclair, I believe is his name.
No, he's great as well.
He's very good, but like, yeah, like it's one of the things where like Tom Kane just is this role for me. But it is, I will just say, it is surreal to see, like the like, similar to something we'll talk about in a little bit more of a meta sense next episode. But like seeing the white hair and the mustache, you're like, wait, is that who I think it is? And it's never acknowledged. It's just like, yeah, of course Yularen's there. He's a high-ranking official within the ISB.
Yeah.
Of course he's there. That makes sense.
Yeah, why not? You know?
Yeah, no, I think it's I think it's a really tasteful cameo to do in this series. Like I'm sure this was a story group sort of thing. Like, tell me Tony Gilroy and his crew before this knew who Wolf Yularen is. Yeah, right. But no, I just really liked seeing him there because, again, it just makes sense. He'd be there. He has this great dramatic little speech to the ISB about the far-reachingness of their response. I have this line here. We know the real shock will be when they discover how ready and eager we are to respond, to be prepared, to be here this morning and know that the only question we need to answer is how tight to close our fist.
Yeah, he said we're on demon time now.
Yeah, and but this is great. But what I love about this is Luthen predicted this.
Yeah,
in the past few episodes, he said, "This is exactly how I want them to respond to this." And credit to Dedra later. She says in a meeting with her assistant, "Here, we're playing straight into their hands." And of course, to mention the line that gives this episode its title, we're treating what happened on Aldhani like a robbery. What was it? An announcement. Dedra knows this isn't an anomaly. This isn't some people managed to do this one thing on a lucky fluke or something like that. This was a planned and strategized assault that they should be treated like the threat it is, because it is a threat to them. And I think it's the Empire reacting like it is one of the things I think that Luthen realizes is that he isn't doing anything that wouldn't have happened anyway. He's just speeding up some things.
Yeah.
Like the weight of the Empire's oppression would have been felt to the point where people felt they needed to react.
Yeah.
But Luthen understands the galaxy doesn't have that kind of time.
It almost seems like there's a bit of accelerationism in his thought process, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have. I'm not saying that I completely side with Luthen on everything, because I don't. I have some very real quibbles, especially with how he deals with Cassian later in this episode. And to people being like, wait, he doesn't deal with Cassian in this episode. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. But he knows how the Empire works. He's gotten very masterful at how the Empire works, and how and what they'll do in response to certain things, and how they'll react in response to certain things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Empire treats the Aldani heist as like a behavioral problem. You know, it's just a crackdown, and it's crime and punishment. I guess they treat it like a robbery. They treat it like petty crime. But what they don't realize, I think, what the Empire is not realizing is that when you make the punishment for stealing, I don't know, a can of soup the same as the punishment for stealing 80 million credits, just because it's stealing from the Empire, then what incentive do people have to be scared of standing up to your rule in the most profound ways possible?
And Luthen says to Cassian in 3, they'll hang you with the same rope, whether it's whether it's, I think, like a Star Path unit or 80 million Imperial credits. Wouldn't you rather give it all to something real?
And that's what he's counting on as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And then so in response to all of this, the Empire passes. That's the other thing Luthen knows they're going to do. They're going to pass the Patriot Act. Sorry, the P.O.R.D. I misspoke.
Oh my god, I didn't even come up with that connection. Wow. Good one.
I mean, in response to a so-called terrorist attack, passing a sweeping measure of and look, am I saying that the US shouldn't have responded to Al-Qaeda after 9/11? Of course not. I'm just saying that that people used the attack as a what's that called? Use the September 11th attack as a.
There were things done in response that were not necessarily in the best interests of the American people.
They used it as a mechanism of fear to inspire increased surveillance and the surveillance state and all that kind of stuff. George has even commented on this himself. With the Military Creation Act and stuff in Attack of the Clones, that was directly inspired by the Patriot Act and other responses to the 9/11 attack by the Bush administration. Like, this is not subtle, but this is that on a wildly increased scale. We're seeing it right now, honestly, in responses to the so-called deep state and fraud and government bureaucracy, the mass crackdown of all of that kind of stuff. It's using these either manufactured or sometimes real fears of an unknown out there to scare people into giving up a lot of their personal rights and privacy rights. We'll see. We've already seen, Mon Mothma talking about, she is one of the representatives that the people have elected to serve them in the Congress of the Empire. But because the Empire, rightfully in this case, because she's of course planning far more than they can ever realize, but because the Empire suspects her, they're watching me, a new driver every week, all around me, new faces. This is what she's saying to.
Yeah, they've got her locked up.
In 4, this is one of your own government officials. and yet you're watching them like a suspected terrorist.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we of course we see that everywhere we go. We see that on Ferrix, we see that on Niamos, we see that on Coruscant, we see that, now even it's going to get to the point where even the wealthy core worlds like Coruscant will start to feel the boot of the Empire on their neck.
Oh, I think they feel it. I think they already feel it. I just think people are willing to, kind of look the other way, or I think a lot of times people, if your material conditions aren't affected, people are willing to look the other way on, issues of rights, freedoms, civil liberty, freedom of expression, civil liberties like that. And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of the, like Mon Mothma's and her husband's, wealthy and powerful friends, the ones who aren't necessarily as politically inclined, like her husband, for instance. He doesn't really care because he says, well, as long as I've got my money, as long as I've got my money, as long as I've got my privilege, as long as I got my status, my fancy clothes, my wine, my good food, my apartment, all that, you know how he likes to live, his crazy robes and everything. As long as I have all that stuff, what's the issue? Is I think what probably a lot of the Coruscant elite are saying, and then and then they don't realize until it's too late when they are getting, nabbed on a bogus or a ridiculous charge for, saying the wrong thing to the wrong person, or all of a sudden their bank account gets frozen, or things of
whatever
that.
it is. Yeah.
Whatever it is, I think that's sort of what it brought to mind for me, was like a lot of rights can sort of be eroded and people can be convinced to look the other way if they think that it's materially in their best interests. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Coruscant and the upper classes are completely getting off scot-free. I think, there's sort of there's questions here with the world building, but I will say definitely that I think people on these core worlds, characters, it's gonna bite them in the butt. They think that they've found a way to kind of chill and ride out everything that's happening. They obviously haven't.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, and one of the things that I think that the P.O.R.D, I think, is actually really interesting in its role in the canon, actually, specifically, because if you look at a lot of the anti-imp stories, and look, I'm not saying that the imps weren't cruel before this. I'm not saying that. In no means am I saying that. However, if you look at a lot of Rebel stuff specifically, a lot of Rebel stuff, a lot of Rogue One stuff, a lot of stuff in the Imp era that takes place in this 5-year period before A New Hope, like, the a lot of early episodes of Rebels are about, like, the fight or flight is stealing Mela runs, or, transporting people who are wanted by the Empire for, like, knowing too much information. Like, not that high stakes, at least in season 1, quite yet. And yet the Empire treats them like they're these war crimes against the Empire or something like that.
That's their policy, and this is why.
The P.O.R.D really helps explain a lot of that. Again, not that they wouldn't have been cruel otherwise, but why are they treating these small things like capital offenses? Because of Saldani. And I think that's really, I think that's a really interesting retcon of why things suddenly start getting so bad so fast. Which
I would agree. I think as well. Oh man, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
No, let's see. Yeah, so we talked our shit about the P.O.R.D. I will also just say there's a line in there which is the first mention of this character from what I can remember in this series, but Yularen mentioned speaking to Emperor Palpatine last night. God, I want to see like a live act. I don't care whatever purpose for Andor season 2 or another project, whatever. Like, I want to see Ian McDermott back as Palpatine, communicating with some of our newer Imperial officers. We've seen him
Yeah.
communicating with Jar or P.O.R.D or something like that, or Pride or something like that. Like, we've seen those in the films, but like, imagine a scene with Ian McDermott and Malcolm Sinclair as Yularen,
Ooh, that'd be fun.
or Ian McDermott and Denise Gough as Dead from Arrow, or Ian McDermott and Ben Mendelsohn, or Ian McDermott and Lars Mikkelsen, Palpatine and Thrawn. Oh my! Like, I'd eat that up for breakfast. I would eat that up for. I would
Yeah.
God, I'd love that.
Like,
To further integrate. Obviously we know Palpatine was there for these discussions. Just further like legitimizing. Oh yeah, these are part of the same universe. These are part of the just like images I have in my head that are just like so cool, so goddamn cool.
yeah. I mean, I love the Palpatine name drop because first off, I mean, we're kind of getting a sense of how big this actually feels for the Empire, but also this almost ripple that goes through the room, with all the background ISB agents. When Palpatine's name is mentioned, you're like, oh man, this is why the Empire is the way it is, because they're terrified of just his name being invoked. That now you're at this level of this is do or die. Like, there are serious consequences for failure. If they're as if there weren't already, but just upping the stakes even more. I thought that was a cool choice.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's like if the appearance of the ISB in Aldhani episode 4 was this is getting real, the mention of Palpatine and the appearance of Yularen is, oh, this is going up to the top now.
Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
not just a bigger conflict. This is a galactic scale conflict, which really, like, I think we needed both of those pushes to be like, oh my god, this is getting bigger than one planet, and now, oh my god, this is getting bigger than a few little things happening. This is the Empire doesn't know it, except for Dedra, who's starting to suspect it, but they're already at war.
Yeah, in a certain sense, they are. Yeah.
Like, I credit the start of I do credit the Galactic Civil War as being a decade long, from 5 BBY to 5 ABY, starting with the heist on Aldhani and ending with the Battle of Jakku in a year after Endor. I really did. We are in the Galactic Civil War from now till I'm trying to think what the last thing we'll be looking at. Probably Battlefront 2 will be the last visual thing we're looking at.
Mm.
Which will be, who knows how long from now. So welcome to the
Yeah.
Galactic Civil War era.
We're here. It's happening.
We're here. I'm gonna say. So, in fact, I titled the last episode of "The Galactic Civil War Begins," so I'm being very blatant about it. Yeah, Cassian goes back to Ferrix, talks with. Let's look at Bix.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to. Yeah. So Bix is, I think, rightfully mad at Cassian for a lot of this stuff. For mostly for returning when she knows it's not safe. One of the things that one of the line I wrote down is Cassian says, "Your crazy boyfriend tries to get me killed, and I'm the villain." And I was thinking about it from the community's perspective, and I'm like, well, Cassian, no, you're not the villain. You're just not the hero yet. Like, you already had a rep around the town of like, oh, he's always running off doing something. Nurchi corners him and Vetch corners him for like to repay debt earlier and stuff like that. And he's always off doing stuff. He's always off doing stuff. And then he kills a few of the Pre-Mor security guards. I don't think the town's even mad about him for that. I think they're mad that he returns and gets his problem all over the town.
Yeah, and he kind of brought down indirectly, but his actions, sort of caused the domino effect that, as Maarva said, led to everything coming undone. Where now they have an Imperial garrison sitting there.
Yeah, and then what does he do? He just runs away from it all.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that he was unjustified to run away, because we know how this affects Cassian, and we know what he and then ends up doing. But none of the town knows that. And now he's coming back to see his mother, and not, they kind of feel like he betrayed him. And I'm not saying he's the villain, even to them. He's just not the hero yet. And I think that's one of Cassian. And I think this combined with I think that this combined with Cassian's imprisonment at the end of the episode, and then corresponding to the next arc, is really the wake up call that Cassian needs to be like, hey, what you were doing on Aldhani actually really mattered. And that's how you become the hero. That's how it is not enough to just act in self-defense. You have to fight back. It's not enough to just care about yourself. You have to care about others.
Yeah, I mean, this episode is sort of, like you said, the transition in many regards, where at the end of last episode, Cassian kills Skeen, because Skeen was going to run off with the money and betray him, or betray Vel. And in my mind, at that moment, that was sort of that was the pivotal point for him. That was the fulcrum of his, journey, the tipping point where now he sort of is more of a rebel than just a scoundrel and a rogue. But then we see him going backwards here. I mean, to fast forward just a little bit, his conversation with Maarva. I mean, Cassian still wants to leave everything behind, like you said. He says, go somewhere warm and easy. And in his mind, that's still the way to live under the Empire. And then obviously Maarva refuses. But we sort of see this is the pivotal moment. And I think he kind of goes for sort of the running away path, and then is forced somewhere else. But he's very much on the precipice in this episode, and that's why.
Yeah.
And
looking at going to Maarva now, if you feel okay with doing that, like, we get the flashbacks. We now see what happened. We have the Hunger Father in the square from Luthen in episode 3, but now we get to see in flashback, which I forgot where this episode, as well as I think we also get one in the finale of the season. But we see, there were some people protesting against the Imperial occupation back when they still used clone troopers, which with the Bad Batch now actually looks like very accurate. I remember at the time being like, wow, they still use clone troopers at that point, and then flash forward to Bad Batch still not using that classic stormtrooper design, even like a year and a half in, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's a big galaxy, man. A year and a half is not a lot of time to get everyone's armors swapped out and yada. But
I wasn't mad at it.
I like that they have that transitionary aspect.
But anyway, either way, point being, we see that Clem was just trying to protect the protesters and prevent it from becoming a bigger thing. But then he gets looped into it at the wrong place, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Does that remind you of anybody?
I don't think I know off the top of my head who you're referring to.
Maybe his son later in this very episode.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a sense, yeah, it is the same.
They weren't doing anything.
Happens to be there. He wasn't doing anything, and yet, gets swept up, gets swallowed up by the machine. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Which is not. I just thought about that like a minute ago. But like, we're getting, I said in my notes, oppression then, oppression now. Also, look at that Phase 2 clone armor. God damn, looks good.
Yeah.
But she has that thing. She says to Cassian, for 13 years, every time I walk down Rick's Road, I turn off before I get to the square. I take the long way around, so I don't have to think about Clem hanging there.
Oh gosh,
But then she admits she walked to the square when she heard about the attack. And this is the other thing, and this is the whole tragedy.
And she doesn't even know that it was Cassian who helped do it.
Her son is too scared to even tell her that it was him. He had the opportunity, and he straight up just didn't.
Yeah.
I also think I also have to imagine when Cassian's in prison. I also have to imagine that's turning through his mind as well. That, and I think like when he tries to go back to Ferrix in the last few episodes, I do think it's his intention to try to tell her that that was him, but he never gets to. She dies before he comes back. So
Yeah.
that's the most tragic thing of this series, honestly, for me, is that his mother is so proud of him, and she doesn't even know it was him.
Yeah. It's difficult, no doubt about it.
The relationship between Cassian and Maarva, which I know is complicated, about the whole thing of did her and Clem take him from the planet and all that kind of stuff, but it's undeniable still that they built this incredible relationship from the time that she raised him, and it is a little bit of something that I would have loved more from this series, but I love that we got it here. Marvin knows that Cassian needs to find his own place in the galaxy and not be tied down by anything on Ferrix or regarding to her. And it's that Cassian can't see that yet. It's that Cassian, like, this is the crossing of the threshold for Cassian in a lot of ways. Like it's a reaffirming of the crossing of the threshold. If 3 was the crossing of the threshold, this is the returning home, but realizing that you need to that home isn't home anymore. That you need to go out. You need to remain in the larger world to fight the big threat. I literally said, I put in my notes, I put it, I won't have peace. I'll be worried about you all the time. And I said, I knew the response before Maarva even said it, but go ahead, Fiona Shaw. Say it anyway. Ruin me again. That's just love. Nothing you can do about that.
I mean,
and then I wrote in my notes, fuck, fuckity fuck. That hits so damn hard every time, and Fiona Shaw delivers it beautifully.
yeah. I mean,
Ruins
this
me
entire
every
scene,
time.
is just really the highlight in an amazing episode. This is really the highlight of the episode. I think just her determination, her grief, and yet her resolve at the same time. I mean, yeah, Fiona Shaw, hats off, amazing acting, and just for Marva, this is such a defining scene when she's kind of saying, I need. She's just like, it doesn't matter. I need to stay here. I'm gonna die fighting the Empire. Like she knows that, and she's
Yeah,
okay with that. And she says, I'm too old. I'm too old to care. I'm not gonna wait around to die. I'm gonna do something before I go.
yeah, it's a gorgeous little piece of writing right there.
Yeah.
Immediately followed up by the line that I'm still, whatever, which is, by the way, stop searching for your sister. It's a fantasy. I don't know what they like. I still have no idea what they're doing about this damn subplot of the sister. Like, season
Maybe
2 proved
season
me
two
wrong. Season
will
2
reveal
proved me
something.
wrong
Yeah.
about the sister subplot, but like, you know, it's something that comes up just enough to matter. Like, it's why he's in the brothel in the first episode anyway.
Yeah.
And, we see her heavily in the flashbacks and all that kind of stuff. Like, what is this thing with the sister? Like, maybe it can be explained in a comic or a book or something like that. It's just, I don't know. It just feels very randomly weird, shoved in there, sort of thing. I don't know. I've had some complicated feelings about the sister thing, but anyway, where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to the ISB or do you want to go to the party?
Oh man. Let's go to the ISB
All right,
because
let's go to the ISB.
I mean, we have the one big sort of there's not too much more in the episode besides the one big kind of confrontation between Dedra Miro and Blevin, where Blevin kind of calls her out and says, you've been playing fast and loose with the rules, you're going rogue, he's accusing her of all this stuff. And then she completely slams the door on him.
Yeah, no,
Like
she.
she finally kind of gets the upper hand and shows in front of Partagaz and in front of Yularen and everyone, you know, exactly why she's doing what she's doing. She says, I've found the pattern. I know what's happening and I need to be able to pursue that. And I think it showed. Oh gosh, this show is so fun. The way you're constantly, sort of rooting for her because Blevins just kind of being a dick about everything, and yet simultaneously you know that she is, trying to hunt down and stomp out, all of our other all of our other beloved characters and all of their
It,
hopes and dreams. Her hopes
it,
and dreams are to crush Cassian and Maarva and Vel and everyone else's hopes and
it,
dreams.
it,
So and it's
it,
so
it,
funny the way that the show makes you
it's
still like
it's
want to
the
root for her
it's the it's
sometimes.
it's the you go. Oh no, wait. Not only is the guy you're fighting against a bad person, you are also a bad person, and also the guy who's been kind of like your sort of ally, part of guys I'm talking about in this. He's also
Yeah.
a terrible. All of you are terrible people. There's no single person here. Well, I wouldn't say that, actually. There's one person who I might classify as a bit better than a bad person, but we're not supposed to know that yet. There's a shot in this episode, I don't know if you caught it, but we get a lot of great facial expressions from Dedra and Blevin and a lot of the other, I'm gonna say, Dedra and Blevin and a lot of the other
Yeah. A lot of cocked
uh,
eyebrows.
like in reaction to a lot of the other supervisors. I don't know if you noticed one of the other officers who the other one of the other supervisors who we focused in on, Lonnie Young.
Don't know if I picked up on that in particular.
He was the white guy with a mustache.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, he had a.
Do you remember what we know about Lonnie Young? What we'll find out about Lonnie Young?
I don't remember.
You remember Luthen's monologue, right? In Ep 10, I think that is. Joey's
Yes.
listening. Do you remember who he's talking to?
This guy?
I don't know if you can see it, but if you look at Luthen's here, and then behind him in an elevator,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
he's a mole.
Oh my gosh. He's the mole.
He's a mole. So imagine, if you will, you're working as a mole for a secret rebel network, and then suddenly like a major attack happens on an outpost in Aldani. There was there was a moment where the shot lingered on Lonnie for a second. I could just felt like I could almost look inside his head. I could hear him going, shit, 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 shit. Oh no, shit, shit, no, 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 no. Fuck, fuck. Oh no, they're gonna catch on to me at some point. They don't, but like, can you imagine? I mean, that's the other thing that he's talking about with Luthen, and that's what prompts Luthen's monologue to him. Is basically, hey, look, man, I'm worried about my family's safety. I'm worried about my own safety in being a mole for you against this tyrannical empire.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm giving up so much for this. What are you giving up? And that's when Luthen goes, well, everything I'm giving up. And then he goes into his monologue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the monologue is basically, hey, don't you talk to me about sacrifice, bitch. I've sacrificed fucking everything for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Lonnie is the mole, and honestly, credit to him, does a very good job at it. Never would have guessed by this point on that he wasn't just not great at his job, or at least not as good as Dedra and Blevin. But yeah, no, but also love the but yeah, no. Dedra learns to become the cunning political manipulator that is exactly what the Empire wants from her. Like this
Yeah.
that's the other thing, which is like it's not just that they're all terrible people. Dedra's victory in this episode is actually just another affirmation of the Imperial philosophy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's not a personal victory. It's a victory for how Palpatine wants the Empire to work. People constantly fighting against each other, the internal squabbles to create the most ruthless, the most dedicated, the most, in that way, officers who will serve, who will find the most ingenious and ruthless ways to serve their emperor.
Yeah.
And that's what's so sinister about this whole thing. I'm trying to think of, is there anything else? Yeah, I think we got to get to the party.
Yeah.
The party, my favorite part of
is...
this. The part, if I gotta say, I know the Cassian and Maarva on Ferrix is your favorite part of this episode. The party is my favorite part of this episode. So delicious, so great,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, it is fantastic. It is really fantastic. Yeah, it is.
This
It is a
is
lot of
legitimately
fun. You know, just the tension and the games that Mon Mothma has to play to actually make contact with someone that she wants to bring into the network in any capacity.
Yeah, this is the scene, by the way, that convinced me. Like, I didn't think that Genevieve was bad as Mon Mothma in the previous episodes, not by any stretch of the imagination. This is the episode that convinced me about Genevieve as Mon Mothma. 100%. This is the episode. The writing and the way she acts out that writing is the way that I is the way that is the way that the thing that convinced me about of Genevieve as Mon and her great potential in this episode. And it is so she calls up Tay. She's talking to Luthen about this hesitation and his hesitation of, oh, should we really bring this other person into the circle and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, I need to. The transferring of funds has become harder. They're watching me more closely. We need to divert their eyes a little bit. We need to do some sneakier and slyer things. The masterclass of acting while acting that Genevieve O'Reilly gives in this episode is nothing short of incredible. That's one of the things I love most about the scene, is that it is a performance within a performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is so, and of course that the whole monologue that Mon says to Tay, the Mon Mothma that you think you know, that the galaxy thinks they know, of an annoying an annoying presence for the imperial bureaucracy, because she pressures them on human rights and stuff like that, but ultimately harmless, just another person within the high-ranking imperial bureaucracy. That's all.
Yeah, ultimately inconsequential.
I show you the stone in my hand so you don't notice the knife at your throat.
Yeah,
which is a direct quote from her in the episode. Legitimately, what I think I love the most, and which is why this is my favorite subplot in this series. This is my favorite part. This is my favorite part of the series. Can all be relegated to one word: smile.
yeah, I love the repetition. So I was just like, oh wait, nope, gotta smile, gotta smile. Gotta act like nothing's happening.
The thing that I love is how smoothly she's so. I've been thinking about about starting this charity thing. Smile,
Yeah.
like it is this, like, she manages to slip it in so easily. You get the feeling, because she's been maintaining this appearance, this facade for decades, because she's been maintaining it, I believe, since the formation of the Empire, which at this point should be 14 years.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. There's another one I'm gonna say. Oh yeah, here's the line where because Tay is constantly questioning her about what exactly she's talking about, and she is, should I say, reluctant to give him a firm answer.
Yeah.
And she said, she says, and Tay says, "You haven't answered my question." And Mon replies, "And I won't. You're better off not knowing."
Yeah.
And
Safer.
what I love about this, I love about this is that Mon is talking about Tay in this moment.
Yeah.
But I think she's also talking about herself. Like, I don't think Mon knows everything that Luthen's doing.
Oh no, she absolutely does not.
And I think it's better off that way.
Yeah. It's about safety, you know.
Yeah, but it's also about commitment. Like, Mon, I think, is one of those things where, like, And jumping back actually to her conversation with Luthen earlier in the episode, when they're talking in her shop, in his shop, what was I gonna say? Where is it? She says, "It was you, wasn't it?" And he never said affirmatively, "Yes, it was me," but he also doesn't. He tries to deny it, but then she sees through his bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's that reaction earlier in this episode of Mon cannot believe that he went this far.
Yeah. And she's kind of, I mean, yeah, she's kind of terrified. She thinks it's too soon.
But we know that she will, but that in 5 short years, she will become, in 3 short years, she will become the woman who will go further than this.
Yeah. She'll become the face of the rebellion.
Yeah. So it is like, because, and I totally understand Mon's fear of commitment to this, because it is a big thing to commit to. It's a huge thing to commit to. You know, as soon as she comes out with that fiery speech against the Emperor in 3 years, she will be later labeled a traitor, and her life will be immediately at risk. One of the arcs that's been speculated, which I do think will happen, will be just based on stuff I've seen in the trailers or in trailer footage. There hasn't been a substantiated trailer for Andor season 2 yet, but there's been little bits of footage that have gotten out. And one of the things is we see like Cassian in like a fancy suit, seemingly with a Chandrillan background, Chandrillan like high class-esque background behind him. And one of the things people speculated, which I believe, is that this is him helping Mon escape Coruscant after she gives that speech.
Yeah.
This is him helping her, you know, get off the planet where she is immediately branded a traitor after she gives she does the most direct treasonous action by a political figure against the Emperor since the Empire's formation 14 years, not 14 years now, it will have been 17 years prior. And it's just so fascinating to watch her transformation from point A to point B. Which will eventually be to point C, which we'll see in Ahsoka, and I'm hoping we will see more of in more of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's side of the Star Wars galaxy.
Absolutely,
from Senator Mothma in the Imperial era to Rebel Leader Mothma, also in the Galactic Civil War era, to Chancellor Mothma in the New Republic era. Yeah. And then I will shout out for no reason, friends of the show, Alden Diaz, Michael McCoy, Jared the Dark Jedi, and Jerry the Canon Junkie are doing this great RPG series called Ionized Bastards. Season 3 has just started on their channel. It's really good this season. That's all I'll say. Check them out on YouTube. Ionized Bastards, a Star Wars RPG series. The last thing I'll say about the Mon stuff is that I still hate Perrin. God, I still hate Perrin. Can't stand that guy. B, every time I watch this series, the one person who I struggle with the most, honestly, is Lita. You know, Star Wars has had the children are our future, children are the innocent, we should protect the children, all that kind of stuff motif since the freaking beginning. The new generation, all about that stuff. And Andor, to its credit, gives us the, in many ways, we see this a little bit with Cyril, but many ways with Lita, because she is the literal, you know, preteen in the series. What if the children are wrong?
Or if the children just have a lot of attitude, you know, teenagers have attitude, you know.
Yeah.
Children may be the future, but they're not always well behaved or as you know, even keeled as, you know, one would
but
hope.
It's more like
we've all been there, you know.
I'm not saying that Lita's bad because she's bratty or anything that it's not about that. It's that she is, because I think of her father's outsized influence on her, clinging to those old Chandrillan traditions that Mon recognizes as outdated and stupid as an act of rebellion against her mother, who is the rebellious one in the family. So her rebellion is sticking to tradition.
Yeah.
In this weird backwards way where, you know, most parents will want their, like, it's the classic trope is age old trope.
You do Sometimes you just go against your parents.
Yeah, but usually it's the other way around, where your parents want you to stick to tradition.
Yeah.
And you want to, and the parents stick to tradition, and the children want to rebel against them by embracing new ideas and new trends. But this is the opposite of that. All this to say, I still have hope for Leah. I'm really hoping, one of the things I want most for Andor Season 2, and I understand this is a personal desire for me, I want Lita to have a moment where she realizes, oh no, I'm all wrong about this. My mom was actually right. Was she the best mother to me? No. And that's not like shrugging that off or anything. That there are real conversations with her mother to be had, like about like, hey, you were running this whole rebellion thing and not including your daughter in it, and not like taking time to care for your daughter. I'm not saying that those aren't conversations to be had, because they are, but her realizing, oh no, this is why what my mom was doing was so much more important than I could have possibly imagined. And this is why, and also this is why my father was ignoring it. And this is why she never brought my father into it. You know, we'll learn next episode that Mon and Perrin were engaged at 15 years old. You know what that means? It means by the time that we saw Mon in the Clone Wars, remember Mon's like few appearances in the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
She and Perrin had already been married for a decade by the time that had happened.
Wow.
Over a decade. It's incredible and disturbing, honestly, just because of, you know, married at 15. But yeah, all that to say, I still have hope for Lita, and I really want to have hope for Lita. Yeah, and then we have two more things for the episode that I want to cover, which is just I want to say I love the cloak and dagger scenes with Luthen and Clea. I want a 4-issue comic series just about Clea, not about Luthen. I mean, Luthen can be in it, of course, but about Clea. About about what was about her being like Luthen's right hand woman, and about doing all like, because Isabel's not the only contact she has. I'm sure they have a whole network of people and all that kind of stuff. Also, just the imagery of Clea like just standing there in the shop. This is kind of the stuff I love about this show. Clea standing in the shop, like eagerly like waiting while Luthen listens to the radio about what happened on Aldhani in the background, just by the Sith Stalker armor. Like in this serious grim show about the effects of fascism, with the goofy ass Sith Stalker armor from The Force Unleashed 2 right beside her. It's the greatest contrast in the world.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's just, yeah. Is there anything you want to talk about with this episode before we get to Niamos?
Not really. I think we kind of covered all. I think it's fantastic sort of transition, especially showing sort of the fulcrum of what's going to happen with Maarva and Cassian specifically. But I think as well, speaking of that scene in the shop, I love that Luthen, you know, offers a weapon to Mon Mothma. He offers her the club and she refuses it, which, you know, pretty closely kind of parallels visually what they're talking about. And that was just
I was going to say
a fun little touch that I noticed.
He hands her the weapon while saying, I wrote this down in my notes too. Was it like, doesn't a weapon need to has anyone ever made a weapon? Has anyone ever made a weapon that wasn't used?
To be used? Something like that, yeah.
And she says it while holding a weapon.
Yeah.
Very, very funny. Yeah, very funny. We get it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
Niamos,
what are your
where
thoughts?
Cassian literally tries to run away from the Empire before realizing, with the notable Pabu exception, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, is immediately profiled by a snippy stormtrooper who may or may not be voiced by Sam Witwer. And by may or may not, I mean is, because goddamn, when when Dave Filoni was made CCO of Lucasfilm, he had immediately issued 2 edicts. Edict number 1, more wolves. Edict number 2, put Sam Witwer as background rules in fucking everything.
Wolves and Whitwer.
Wolves and Whitwer. Those are the 2 things. And then Whitwer Shore Trooper calls in more reinforcements. And I think we should all admit it. When we saw that droid walking up that ramp, we all thought for a second that maybe Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna and Alan Tudyk were lying about K2 not being in this season.
Yeah.
But then it was just a regular KX security droid, and they just totally baited us with that, which is fine. But it's very funny that we all thought we knew where this is going. But
no.
I
like that they're reintroducing the KX, I like that they're reintroducing the security droids now, so that hopefully when he does meet K2SO, possibly it doesn't just
we know K2SO is in season 2, so
oh, no K2SO. Oh, bummer.
No, we know K2. No, we know K2 is in season 2.
Oh, I thought you were saying no K2SO. Okay.
No.
Well, then when that inevitably happens, it will feel less. It will feel less of an obvious, jarring moment of we need to explain how we got here, so we're going to suddenly cram it. I think it's a good choice regardless. But of course, Cassian just gets some money and then literally goes to just party and chill on a random beach planet. But I love the environment here so much, the music, the art directing, the costuming. I like that we finally see a non-human species here
we
and there.
see aliens again.
I think that's something that might be the one thing that's kind of missing from this show,
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I mean the questioning with that completely circular dialogue is just, I mean, it's absolutely cartoonish, and yet it's such a good sort of parody of how bad policing or malicious authoritarianism just ends up sweeping people indiscriminately into incarceration. Is sort of,
and we'll get a lot into mass incarceration.
And sort of parodied in that conversation.
In the next 3 episodes of In a Galaxy, but no, we're setting up the Narkina 5 arc, which is, spoiler, my favorite arc of the show. Beautifully written and beautifully directed.
Yeah,
horrifying
it's something
to watch.
else, man. It is really something.
Horrifying to watch, but it, and believe me, I've already started to watch it again. But like, it's rough. But yeah, we also get a few scenes with Cyril and his mother, both starting and ending off the episode. Again, referencing how much of a cog in the machine he is, mostly because working with the Bureau of Standards, which is just a nothing job. One of the first lines of dialogue that his mother delivers to him at the beginning of the episode is, "What makes you believe that the Bureau of Standards is in the market for individuals?" That wasn't meant to be anything, but it reveals that everything. They're not looking for individuals. They're looking for loyal foot soldiers, which Cyril, admittedly, other than I guess
he is one.
Other than I guess his color adjustments, which Edie was fretting about earlier in the episode. Other than that, damn good foot soldier. Maybe has some independent ideas of his own about how it should be conducted, but very, very rooted in imperial ideology, an oppressive imperial ideology. So on that front, he's got it all worked out for him. Yeah. Overall thoughts about this episode?
Oh man, it was. I thought it was really fantastic. I loved the way that they sort of immediately set the stakes and set the scene, a little bit of world building for the Empire with, Yularen just going on and on and on and on and on about the various restrictions and sanctions and increased punishments and all the what have you about what the Empire was going to do in response, and sort of the menacing speech about, sort of the the ISD and their, not the ISD, no, that's Imperial Star Destroyer. The ISB, sorry, the ISB, their whole response. Then I think, Mon Mothma obviously gets some incredible moments in this episode. Your conversation with Luthen, the party, One small moment I like that we get to see a little bit of Vel on Coruscant, really show
Yeah,
her as well, sort of inhabiting both worlds as kind of a it's a moment that leaves an impression on the viewer since we kind of know her in the dusty, dirty, kind of on the ground, rough and tumble in the mud roll,
yeah.
just
We'll
just
get
grinding it out on
we'll get
on Aldani.
yeah
But yeah,
we'll
this is
get
a
more of the
fantastic episode. I
aristocratic
really
Vel
love it.
soon, and I love that.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites so far of the show.
Yeah, no, this is my favorite. It's one of my favorites of the show. It transitions from arc 2 to arc 3 extremely well, and I'm excited to get into more here on Star Wars in the Galaxy with the next 3 weeks covering the prison arc. We're the Narkina 5 arc, however you want to call it, which we will be returning to in episodes 164, 5, and 6 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. And I think we can confirm this. We are having a 4-episode 166 of Star Wars in a Galaxy. We are lucky enough to end the prison arc with One Way Out with good friend of the show, incredible collaborator, one of my personal good friends in the Star Wars space. Can't say enough good things about this guy. From Octo Radio and Anytime with Ken and Alden. Alden Diaz will be joining us for One Way Out, and we're going to have a bunch of other guest appearances on the show as we conclude Andor. We're now in the latter half of the season. We're in the home stretch where the show, and again, not that it's been good so far, but when the show really starts picking up steam and we get some shattering conclusions to the end of this season. That's going to be it for this. That's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Next week, Narkina 5, just the two of us as always. You can follow us. We're mostly on BlueSky now. I don't think I told Jacob about this, but I made the decision, and I don't think he'd necessarily mind. I officially deactivated the Star Wars in a Galaxy account on Twitter this past week.
Yeah.
Because just I
There's
I
certain
have my
things we
own
don't there's
I
certain
have my
things we
own
just don't
personal
tolerate.
I have my own personal account on Twitter still that is locked. I don't post on there, but for certain communications, and if I ever need to see something on the site, I still keep it. But it's not in active use anymore. But other than that, I want to have as little of a presence on Twitter. And yes, I'm not calling it the stupid other name. I want to have as little of a presence on Twitter as humanly possible. Please find us on BlueSky. Please do, if you're a listener of the show and you're not on BlueSky and you're inactive. Like, I know there are still some holdouts on Twitter, some friends in the space and all that kind of stuff. I cannot encourage you enough. Ditch Twitter. Come to BlueSky. It's a lot better in so many different ways. We are at inagalaxypod.bsky.social on BlueSky. We are on Instagram, though we don't post there incredibly often. We are on Threads. Again, we don't post there incredibly often, but yeah, you can listen to us on all platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts, we'll be there. If you haven't already, rewatch the stream we did with Claire Chapman, J-Dub, and Cooper about the bounty hunters of Star Wars Galaxy. Those will be coming back sometime soon. We're still trying to plan out the details for the next one. Epic Confrontations will be returning in March, if not sooner. We'll be returning in March with the Coaxium run and the Teams title match, which are both in the works being planned right now. We're very excited to have Epic Confrontations back. And in the meantime, I think the only thing else there's to say is may the Force be with you.
Always.